Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate, ladies and gentlemen. Today, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Commission, of which I'm proud to serve as chair, joins the nation in celebrating the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was born 89 years ago today. The King Commission was formed in 1992 to not only honor the memory of Dr. King, but to continue his work through educational, historic, and cultural programs, public policy analysis, and public disclosure or discourse on contemporary issues. Events of 2017 have left us with a sharper awareness that much work remains to be done to achieve Dr. King's vision of a beloved community, a global vision in which all people can share in the wealth of the earth. As described by the King Center in Atlanta, in the beloved community, poverty, hunger, and homelessness will not be tolerated because international standards of human decency will not allow it. Racism and all forms of discrimination, bigotry, and prejudice will be replaced by an all-inclusive spirit of sisterhood and brotherhood. In the beloved community, international disputes will be resolved by peaceful conflict resolution and reconciliation instead of military power. Love and trust will triumph over fear and hatred, and peace and justice will prevail over war and military conflict. On August 11th and 12th of last year, this dream felt painfully distant here in the Commonwealth when a display of hatred in Charlottesville resulted in the senseless deaths of Heather Heyer and Virginia State Police pilot Lieutenant H.J. Cullen and Trooper Pilot Burke M.M. Bates. 55 years ago, Dr. King visited Charlottesville and spoke to nearly 900 students, faculty, and community in Old Cabell Hall at the invitation of the university's student chapter of the Virginia Council on Human Relations. In his speech, Dr. King said, "Non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as cooperation with good." A few years later, in 1967, Dr. King spoke to the 11th Annual Southern Christian Leadership Conference Convention in Atlanta on the topic, "Where do we go from here?" His speech echoed the themes of his book written that same year, and one of the central themes is hope. Reflecting upon the civil rights movement, Dr. King discussed the question of what African Americans should do with their new freedoms found after the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. He concluded that all Americans must unite in their fight against poverty and create an equality of opportunity. He reiterated his philosophy of nonviolent social change and the power of love over hate, saying that he still stood by nonviolence as the most potent weapon available to the Negro in his struggle for justice in this country, because darkness cannot put out darkness. Only light can do that. And he said, "I say to you, I have decided to stick with love, for I know that love is ultimately the only answer to mankind's problems. And I'm going to talk about it wherever I go. I know it isn't popular to talk about it in some circles today, and I'm not talking about emotional bosh when I talk about love. I'm talking about a strong, demanding love, for I have seen too much hate. I've seen too much hate on the faces of sheriffs in the South. I've seen hate on the faces of too many Klansmen, too many white citizens, counselors in the South who want to hate. Myself, because every time I see it, I know that it does something to their faces and their personalities. And I say to myself that hate is too great a burden. I have decided to love. If you are seeking the highest good, I think you can find it through love. And the beautiful thing is, we aren't moving wrong when we do it, because John was right. God is love. And he who hates does not know God, but he who loves has the key that unlocks the door to the meaning of the ultimate reality. Those words ring true, and we need to heed them today. Dr. King spoke those words in the last year of his life. And today, as we celebrate his birth, this year we will also remember and mourn his death, which we will celebrate the 50th or recognize the 50th anniversary of his assassination in Memphis, as he was in Memphis to fight for the economic justice and improve the lives and working conditions of sanitation workers there on strike. Today, half a century later, we still ask Dr. King's question: where do we go from here? In 2018, the King Commission will travel to 12 localities across the state where Dr. King actually visited through our King in Virginia project. We will talk about and educate the public on King's ties, visits, and connections to Virginia. More importantly, we will examine in each of those communities, where are we in achieving Dr. King's vision of a beloved community today, and where do we go from here? I invite you all to join us throughout the year as we have this important conversation. Dr. King foresaw hardships to come that we still endure today. And he said, difficult and painful as it is, we must walk on in the days ahead with an audacious faith in the future. That is as important today as it was 50 years ago, and that we must remember on this historic day that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Dr. King delivered his last address the night before he died, and his final words to the nation make clear his unshakable faith that whatever challenges we face, we will achieve peace and justice in our future if we continue to strive for it. And he said, I've been to the mountaintop, and I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land, and I may not get there with you, but I want you to know that we as a people will get to the promised land. Dr. King's words, his faith in humanity, his hopes for the future give us clear direction today as we continue to build our beloved community. So, Mr. President, I move that when the Senate adjourns today, we do so in the honor and memory of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Thank you.